Hey guys, this is Colby. Today I'm going to show you how to make a helmet for your Sci-Fi soldier inside of Blender. Continuing from our first parts, which was the undergarments, which we've now done. Now we're going to start making the helmets. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do starting off is I'm going to create a plane. Shift A, create a plane. It'll appear on the feet because that's the origin point. Move it up and scale it down. Just move it into position until it's covering the eyes. So that looks good. Rotate it, scale it down again. So I'm going to start off by making the visor, and that'll be the first part of making a helmet. It's usually the most prominent feature of any helmet. So let's just get the basic shape. Just creating edge loops so I can extrude from. So I'm going to select this edge, extrude outward, pressing E. Then I'm going to scale it down. So there we go. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drag this one to cover the corners of the eyes, basically. And I'm going to edit the shape a little bit. I usually go with this kind of shape in most cases because I think it looks pretty good. It's pretty simple. Just make sure that everything looks pretty nice. Doesn't really matter what the overall shape is. You can have something completely different. But I think this is it's a decent design once you kind of get it right. Which sometimes hard to do. But just try to make it a little bit larger. Looks better. Just imagine that like this is like the front part of the helmets, even in the head. You can already kind of see the overall shape. Looks good. So once you have your basic shape of your visor, we can start adding a little more detail to it. So what I'm going to do is select all the faces in edit mode, press 3, or you can click on this button right here. This is vertice, this is edge, this is face. I'm in face mode. I have all of them selected. I pressed A. And then once you have them all selected, press I to inset. And this will create faces inside of the faces that already exist. So I'm just going to delete these middle ones here. So that way I can merge this all together, just dragging it to the side. So I'm going to press X, delete faces, Shift Alt, left mouse, move it to the center. Make sure you have clipping on, otherwise it'll do this. It'll never like merge together, but if you actually continue to move that direction, it won't go any further. It's already merged. So now I'm gonna, these faces, drag them inward, so that way it creates a little bit of depth. Make sure that the visor isn't clipping through the head. So I'm gonna actually make it a little bit further, so that way I can actually cover the whole head with the rest of the helmet. So actually here I'm gonna edit the shape a little bit, move this a little bit, kind of following the curvature of the face. Looks good. So now we're gonna start wrapping around the forward head, or the forehead, I mean. I'm gonna grab this edge, I'm gonna extrude it. Press E to extrude, and make sure it wraps around the head and also curves a bit. So I'm gonna go to vertice mode and then move these so that way they kind of follow this like sort of curved surface. Sorry about that, my screen turned black because the smooth tool will crash my Blender sometimes, which is annoying. But anyway, let's extrude upward, wrap around the head. This will be like just the center of the head, and it'll go all the way around in a single line. And then we'll come back later and start adding like faces that do the same but around the side of the head. Right now we're just doing the top. So here I'm just extruding faces continuously. Keep going back. Just keep going. And then around this really curved part of the head, we're going to add a little bit more edges. Make sure the amount of edge loops is a bit higher. Just keep extruding. Just keep going down. Rotate it a little bit. Pressing R. And just get a nice shape for the side view. Which, kind of like this a little bit. I'm not going to do like a weird thing where it like curves inward and it like goes out, because that looks kind of weird. So I'm just going to do like this. Imagine that there's like a line right here that just goes straight down at like a 45-degree angle, and then it like connects to the chin and then moves to the back of the head. That's what I'm going to do for this head. So now I'm just going to continue on the other side. So I'm going to go from this edge and then extrude downward. This will be the chin part. Now I'm going to just extrude again sideways, scale it down a bit, and then move it back. That'll create like a little bit of three-dimensional depth. Looks good. And then we're going to select this edge here, extrude back, covering the jaw line, and make it look kind of sci-fi, like low poly, but like straight and angular faces that don't really look too weird or curved. Things that look, somewhat robotic. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's enough faces for this side of the head, because if I start adding more of these edge loops, it'll start to create a little bit more of a curve, which I don't really want. But if you feel like it looks good on your helmet, then that's fine. But I'm just trying to create something that I like, but also can show you how to make one in general. So here we go. Getting off track a little bit, but here we're basically just moving these faces across the jawline and at a 45-degree angle from the bottom of the chin to the back of the head, and we're going to connect to the back of the head here. So kind of like wrap it around a little bit, and then I'm going to fill these faces in. So what I did here is I pressed this edge, I hold down shift and I click on the next edge, and then I press F, and that'll fill. Pretty easy. So here I'm just going to make sure everything looks kind of flat and straight. So here it's like a horizontal, but looks good. Right, so now we're going to drag this one a little bit this way, so that way it kind of matches the overall lines here. Make sure they're pretty straight. They don't have to be perfectly, but I think it just looks good for the sake of low poly sci-fi stuff. Alright, so now we got the jawline. Now we can start adding a bit more of a curve to it. So I'm actually just scalp the whole thing a little bit so it covers the whole head a bit better. I don't have to worry about clipping later. So now we're going to start moving upward with these faces across the jaw and the cheek. So I'm going to drag this face. I'm going to create another edge loop here, but I'm not going to make it curved like this. I'm just going to move it up so that way it has something to kind of align with. So here I'm going to just make sure it covers the cheeks and follows this sort of angular alignment with the rest of the visor. So here this is straight up, not perfectly straight up, but at an angle. And so I'm trying to match that angle with this face here. So make sure this edge and this edge are at the same angle. That'll create a parallel low poly look, and it'll look good. So here I'm gonna move this a little bit. I don't always justify why I do these kinds of things. It's just it just feels right sometimes. It'll make sense if you just try to make your own helmet. If you feel like something is necessary for your own taste, then do it. So here, the front of the helmet looks pretty good so far. I like the overall very angular faces that aren't curved really. They're just flat. But the top of the head is more curved. So Try to keep that overall design. Now I'm gonna start moving from the jawline upward. So move this up, extrude, and we'll merge these vertices together later on and make sure that they actually follow each other. So go to top view and like they follow the. Just make sure that they follow the curvature of the overall faces that we're starting to build. So it'll make sense, I guess. So I'm just gonna keep moving upward with these faces, and make sure that you take into account these edges back here that you've already created, because we'll be merging this all together as a single like curved face, or it'll be a multi-face surface, but like it'll be all connected. So we need to add edge loops here, because these two go together, and then we'll add another one, and now these two go together. Now you can kind of see what we're going for. So we're going to fill in these faces, and that connects that part. Just pressing F once you have two selected. And now we're going to do the same here. So create another edge loop, another edge loop, another edge loop. Not on that one, not on that one. This one. And then we'll do this one here, and then this one there. You can kind of see what I'm going for. I'm creating this like similar topology here. It's like edge flow. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but it will make sense if you just look at it visually. You'll see the pattern. So I'm pressing Alt-M, and then I'm pressing Last. That'll merge these vertices together. And now we can actually continue forth from here. So once you have them all merged, looks nice. Then we can start extruding again and adding more edge faces and edges. So there we go. Here I'm just going to straighten this out a bit. I don't want it to be like too curved. So now that we have these faces all merged together, we can start moving upward again. So here I'm going to start with this, and then I'll link it to the sides here. So grab this edge if you have one like this, and then just connect everything together. So Alt-M, connecting the visor, the corner of it, to that face that we just created. And now I'm going to start wrapping around the side of the head. Make sure that it looks good from all angles, front view and side view. So here, make sure again that you keep taking into account the edges that you already created. So this edge loop here is going to link together with this edge, and then all these. Just imagine that we're going to create more edges that follow this line here. It's imaginary for the moment, but it'll make sense. So just doing it again here. Here, that edge is like following this overall line. Again here. Now, there's more edges over here than there are on the top or the side, so we're going to have to create some more. So once we get to the corner here, make sure it lines up. I'm going to fill in. I'm going to create another edge loop here, just so we can avoid creating triangles. And I'll show what triangles really do. They're not always a problem, but sometimes it's just better to try to avoid them. Quads are faces that have 4 vertices, and triangles are faces that have 3 vertices. You know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. For the sake of animation, they don't, because it'll cause weird creases on the surface of the character whenever you start moving around the mesh with like an armature. But if it's like a static object, then it's not that much of a problem. Like a helmet is fine, as long as the helmet doesn't stretch or anything like that, which it's not. So here I'm going to fill in these faces. Sorry, no, just fill in. So here we have 5 vertices. So if we do like this, there'll still be this little gap. So I'm going to create another edge up here, and then I'm going to merge these two. Problem solved. But now we have a whole nother edge loop here that's kind of unnecessary because it adds like too much detail in one small area. So we need to spread out the edge loops a bit. So I'm going to select this edge, press GG quickly, and that'll allow you to do this. Once you move your mouse up and down, it'll move along the curvature of the head without affecting like the position too much. You can slide it wherever you want. And just make sure that they all kind of follow the inline. So whenever I edit one, I'll have to edit another one, which takes a little bit of time, but it's not too big of a deal. So here I'm just gonna make sure they're all straight. So now we can start moving towards the corner of the heads with the edges, start merging these together. So here I'm going to create another edge loop, another one, extruding. Might be easier just to delete these and then continue from the front. Just merge these as you go. Keep extruding. Follow the lines here. We'll merge them together again, but right now we're just gonna get the shape and then try to make sure it looks good from all angles again. Here they are stuck together, so I'm gonna turn off clipping for a second. That'll separate them, scale them down again, and then move them back here. We'll turn clipping back on, and then keep extruding. Sorry, I meant to turn clipping back on. And now we're going to create another edge up here, fill, and then we're going to merge all of those vertices that we haven't merged together yet. So Alt-M, last, and then just do the same for the rest. Alt-M, Alt-M. And if you can't see them from solid viewports, then you can switch your viewport to wireframe with this little button up here. Or you can press Z and then switch to wireframe. Now you can see everything. So Alt-M, last. Just connect all these vertices. If you ever see two together like this, but they're not connected, then you should connect them. And that'll link everything together. Make sure that silhouette from the front looks like curved on the top, kind of like that. We're gonna like just keep going around here. But that's so now we'll smooth this out a bit later, but for now I'm just gonna keep merging these faces. So here I'm going to, let's see, I'll create another edge up here, and I'm gonna fill in this face, so that way we have quad, not a 5 vertice face or a triangle. This is like a harder part of making the helmets, which is just linking all the back faces and the top faces and the side faces all together. So just make sure that it looks all good. I'm just going to continue extruding. We're going to do the same for this set of faces that we did. So we're just going to try to follow the sets, and we'll merge them later. But we're just trying to follow the shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. So now we're going to, I think actually I'm just going to get rid of this set of edges here. So I'm going to press right click, dissolve edges, and that'll get rid of that. which is really useful for getting rid of unnecessary edge loops really quickly. So let's see. Here I'm gonna fill in this face. I'm gonna create another set of edge loops here. I guess I actually didn't really need to dissolve them so far. I just thought I did, but you know, sometimes I make mistakes. That's fine. So merge these. Trying to go as fast as I can here. Fill in these faces here. Create edge loops as I go. And then it's a little rough right now, but we'll smooth it out pretty quickly. So here we have a triangle, but I'd like to avoid that, so I'm going to get rid of this face here. So that way we can add an edge loop here. So I didn't mean to do that, but you can add an edge loop here. Now we can actually create a quad. So quad there and quad here. Sometimes you have to do that kind of stuff, just like improvise to make sure you get any results that leads to a quad, because that's what you want to have, just for the best topology. So once you have your rough faces all merged together, now we can start smoothing it out a bit. So I'm going to use the smooth tool. So by default, you'll have the select box icon selected. And I want to use the smooth tool, so it's this little pink square, or cube. Once I have that selected, I can select the faces that I want to smoothen out. And hopefully Blender doesn't crash on me, but all you're doing is just holding down left click and then dragging the mouse. And Blender crashed on me. I'm going to restart. I can smoothen out again, just like that. There we go. It's really useful for like smoothing out the corners of heads or anything that's like very curved. That it's really hard to like do it by hand. So here I'm gonna edit the shape of the head a little bit. So I'm gonna use the proportional editing little tool. That's this little blue icon up here. Once you click it, it'll allow you to drag faces together, like by influence. So it'll make more sense when I do it. So select one face, press G, and there will be this little circle, which is what you're controlling. So you're actually controlling multiple faces based on the one that you have at the center. So you can actually change how much you want to affect the overall head. If you scroll down a bit, that'll only focus on this section, but if you scroll upward, that'll start to gain more control of the overall head. So this is useful for like, you know, larger surfaces that are curved where it might require a lot of editing by hand. This can save a bit of time. So I'm just gonna make sure that it looks a little bulky, but not too sharp. So here I'm gonna smoothen out these faces again. Blender might crash on me, but let's see. It did. It's like a 50-50 chance, but I can get back in and just do it again. Every time I use the smooth tool, Blender will crash sometimes, so just brace for that. But here we can just shade smooth, and that'll make all this look a lot more nice. So now we're gonna smoothen out this area. So once you have your basic shape of your helmets, once it's all linked together and merged and smooth, you can start adding some more details to the outside. So here I'm gonna create like a little mohawk. So I'm gonna select all these faces, holding shift. So I can select multiple in sequence. You could also just press C, and that'll open up this little bubble, and allow you to select multiple at a time. So here I'm gonna just press P to separate it. I'm gonna go back into edit mode. Once I switched out into object mode, I'm gonna go to edit mode for this object here. and then I'll press E to extrude outward. So I pressed E, then I pressed S, so that way I could scale outward rather than just going straight outward. Try not to make it too like prominent or too, don't make it stick out too much for the helmet. This is just a feature I like to add to my helmets. It's like a little Mohawk kind of thing. Looks kind of cool. I'm gonna try to make this a little bit more straight. Now I'm gonna start making it a little bit sharper. So I'm gonna add an edge loop, Control R, and then I'm gonna move it up here. Control R, click, and then move it down, and then do it again here. Control R, and Control R. Now here this is a bit messy, so I'm gonna make some changes here. Make this a little more square. So I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't like overlap and all that, so it looks kind of weird, but it looks fine. So now that we have like this little Mohawk, I'm gonna make it a little bit sharper. I'm gonna select this edge loop here, Shift Alt, click, and then I'm gonna move it up, press GG twice. It only says G once, but you're actually pressing it twice. And now it looks a bit sharper. I'm gonna make sure that it looks pretty even. So here it's kind of like going inward a little bit. I need to fix that, so I'll drag it outward. I'm gonna do the same here. Just pressing Shift Alt and then selecting the edge loop. So now we have Mohawk done. I'm gonna turn on the edge split modifier for the helmets, so that way I don't have to worry about these like shading errors in the corners of the eyes here. So edge splits. Where's okay, right here? And that'll add these little these creases here. So I'm gonna actually fix them a little bit. Just drag around the vertices a bit, move them around so they're not doing that weird problem. It'll do this weird thing like that. It's kind of hard to fix. Oh, there we go. Now let's fix this one. And come on. Not sure why it does this. Okay, let's see. Not sure why it does it. There we go. I'm just trying to get rid of this sharp edge here. Can mess around with the modifier a bit, and that'll do that. So turn up the angle a little bit, and I think it'll fix it. Just mess around with it. I don't know exactly why it does that. It's a weird modifier, but it helps if you're new and you don't have to worry about like trying to add in edge loops to like fix these weird problems, because it'll just make it more complicated. So right now, edge split is kind of an easy fix. The overall topology is a little rough, but I think I'm fine with it. So now I'm going to add a little more detail to the jaw area. So I'm going to create a cube, Shift A, move it to the left side. I'm going to turn off the smooth tool because that keeps crashing Blender. But here I'm just going to mirror it across the helmets. I'm not going to turn on clipping because right now it's just on the other side. It's not going to be merged. So here I'm just going to move it downward. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be super like detail or anything, just like kind of like something like that. So I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to make this part a little bit taller. So I'm going to an edge up here, so that way I can move this up without moving the whole part up. Move it forward a bit. Scale down. There we go. And then move it just right there. Move it down a bit. Making a lot of changes here. Here I'm just going to drag this edge back a bit, so that way it kind of sticks up like that. I'm going to merge these two faces here. So create an edge loop down the middle, and then turn on clipping again. I'm going to delete this face because I don't want it to cause shading problems. So I'm going to select this set of edges here, and then I'm going to extrude and stick them together. Let's move this forward a bit. That way it's kind of curved, angular. Actually, I might just get rid of that section. I might just like... So here I'm going to go back. I'm going to shorten this area a bit. Doesn't matter too much, but I'm just going to try to make it look better. I'm just messing around with it until I look happy with it. Okay, I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to create another cube and just move it up, scale down, mirror it across again. Select the base mesh, or the helmet I mean. This is taking a while, but I'm going to try to do this a little quickly. It's going to be like the back of the helmet. So here I'm going to just do that. I'm going to move it up a bit, like that. I'm going to try to make it not stick out too much. So like try to move it closer to the helmets. Here I'm gonna, looks decent. So I'm gonna try to add some more details to the side right here. Just try to move upward a bit. Just keep adding cubes and just change the shape. And it all starts with just a cube. You can turn it into anything you want, as long as you just extrude faces and just don't think too much about it. Doesn't have to be a certain design, it can just be random, as long as it looks good. So here I'm going to scale it down. Add an edge up here. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. Screw it downward. Here I'm going to make sure it kind of sticks out a little bit around the jaw. So just do that. Give it some nice detail. I'm going to link these faces together with like a small link. So move this up a bit. That way it lines better. And then I'm just going to select this face. Press I to inset. And then extrude towards the little middle section here, and then move it down. And that's weird. That's not bad looking. Just make sure that it doesn't overlap or cause any weird problems. So I'm actually just going to drag it all the way through, because it doesn't matter if this part, you don't really need to merge all the things together like with the merge vertices, because it's just a small detail. There we go. trying to make it cover the whole edge of the helmet. So I'm going to move this down a bit. That looks fine. So here I'm just gonna kind of mess around with this. I'm not trying to create any specific design or be really, crazy about it. Just add random pieces that kind of extrude. Just make it look a little more robotic. That's something you'll notice with like famous iconic designs in movies, like Star Destroyers stuff. They have a lot of like non-functional things that just look good. That's it. It's just, aesthetic. And so that's what I'm doing here. They're like pretty much random, just to add a little bit of detail to the surface of things. Trying to speed this up a bit. It's taking a while, but I think that looks pretty good. I think I can pretty much call this helmet done for now. The modeling aspect. Now we're gonna, like later on, we'll model the rest of the armor for the body. For that now, this is just the helmet. And we'll texture everything later with just like simple colors and base colors, so we don't have to worry too much about like complicated texturing and all that. But I hope you guys enjoyed making these helmets. Next time I'll start making the shoulder pads, and then next time after that we'll start making the chest. But I'll try to be as quick as I can. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so see you guys next time.